and be taken care of that way, and you wouldn't have to go through this other risk, no one would be happier than me. So I do have some experience with this personally, as well as I've probably seen about as many patients as anybody with multiple sclerosis over the last 40 years. I consider myself, is there a pointer?
Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Does anybody have a laser pointer with them here? I should bring, oh, see, somebody's always smart enough to know what to bring, and I'm not one of those. I consider myself a disinterested third party. What does that mean? Does that mean I don't care? No, I'm not uninterested, I'm disinterested. I step away from it and look at data, look at the facts. I don't want to be prejudiced because my stepdaughter has MS, or because my best friends have MS, or I've taken care of all these thousands of patients over the years, so therefore I'll try anything for them. No. I do it just like I'm doing a drug trial. Just like I'm doing the drugs. My job is to evaluate the theory and the research data relative to evidence-based medicine. I won't go into a lecture about evidence-based medicine, but Dr. Duncan mentioned it. It's the standard of how we judge. Is this good information or not so good information? And I'm cautious, so I'll tell you, I've read the Zamboni paper, I followed the literature, and I'm actually cautious about the design of the study and the actual data. I'm going to go through that in detail, so you'll understand. This is not somebody who just likes Dr. Zamboni. I've actually had conferences with him, and and this is a very well-meaning person. But that's not my job. My job is to look at the data and the design. But let's give him a break. I mean, I'm going to say some things that are difficult for me to understand about the data. But the fact is, this was a pilot study, and lots of pilot studies really are there to say, is this worth actually doing more definitive studies? It's called proof of concept. Is there any proof of the concept? And you don't expect to have all the answers with 65 patients in this. And there was encouraging data. But they also raised many questions, and they deserve further scientific trials. But I would say that to date, the results are not conclusive, and certainly do not support the commercialization of CCSVI procedures without more scientific data. We need to do the procedure, but we need to study while we're doing it. We need to learn while we're doing it. Somebody told me there's estimated 15,000 people who've had this procedure, probably twice that, I would guess, from all over the world. What happened to those people? I don't know. Does anybody here know? Well, one of the things the Hubbard Center is doing is they actually have a registry. They're following these patients. So we're going to get some information. But right now, what happened? How many of those people died? I don't know. Does anybody know? No. We need to find out. How many of those people actually got out of wheelchairs and walked? I'd like to know that. So how are we going to be able to understand this until we actually, every patient who has this procedure needs to be followed and studied and looked at. So therefore, those of you who are contemplating this as patients need to be involved in studies. And Dr. Hubbard set up the first national IRB, Institutional Review Board for patients, the first registry. That's what we have to do. And that's why I'm here today. Because this center is doing it the right way. And I wish them well. Okay, now, this was my opinion, is it's not ready for commercialization. And I'm the neurologist, I'm the bad guy, I'm the black cat here. And the interventional radiologists, the Society for Interventional Radiologists are the doctors. They're the liberators. They're the people who cure the people. That's, So what do they say about this? This is a quote from one of their position statements. At present, Society of Interventional Radiology considers the published literature to be inconclusive on whether it's clinically important in the development or progression of the disease, and whether balloon angiography or stent placement are clinically effective in MS patients. So, we're on the same team here. So the neurologists are not that far apart. What's going to bring us together is information, data, collaboration. And that's what I'm looking for. All right, I'm not going to bore you with this. This was really meant for the interventional radiologists, not for the patients. But there have been over 100 cures for MS. And I've been around 40 years, and there's been more than 100 cures. And these are some of them that you've seen, the snake venoms and the bee stings, and giving people malaria, driving the temperature 104 because they thought it might be syphilis in the 1930s. You know, all sorts. And these are the cures. These are published data. But for this audience, I wanted to talk about vertebral artery surgery, which is especially difficult, and especially, I think, makes the endovascular surgery people potentially vulnerable if they don't do science. In 1977, when I was running the Rocky Mountain MS Center at the University of Colorado, a number of my patients were going to California to get surgery because there was vertebral artery insufficiency. Not vein, but artery insufficiency, because there was a kink, and the blood wasn't getting up there, and there was a doctor there, Dr. Hurwitz. Does anybody know Dr. Hurwitz? You know, 1977, was anybody around besides me in 1977? Anyway, they were spending $100,000 a person. Almost every one of them had to sell their house to get this, but it was going to be the cure. And he operated on many, many people. And why did he operate on people? Because he got published in a journal. So it must have been legitimate. And they were streaming to him. And I was seeing them afterwards. I was saying, what is going on here? Well, I don't know what happened, but I think he lost his medical license. And it was really something that's really bothered neurologists when we talk about vessels to the brain. Again, this was mainly for the interventional radiologists and endovascular surgeons in the group. So we have some experience. And we want to make sure we never go down this road again. We never want to subject our patients to things that aren't scientifically valid. And so that's why we're insisting that this be done in a protocol-driven environment that gives us data. And you know, if you do that, and this thing works, there'll be 400,000 people in the United States who will probably have this procedure. And we won't be putting people on drugs that might do them harm. If we don't do it, there'll probably be 50 to 100,000 without data. Let's just do it anyway. And if it doesn't work, then what have we done then? Okay, I just thought I would let you know sort of what some neurologists say to patients. This is what I hear from patients and also from neurologists. That the CCSVI theory is very naive and it's not supported by facts. The theory is naive and supported by facts. We're going to hear today some of the theory and some of the facts that we really know. But from the neurologist's perspective, most people think this is not a factual based procedure. CCSVI occurs without producing MS. Patients with strokes have CCSVI, patients with cancer surgery, other conditions, people who have nothing wrong with them at all have CCSVI. They don't get MS. So what's the big deal? And much of the current scientific data, I'm going to go over a little bit of it, not much. I'm not going to give you a technical, statistical analysis of what's going on. I'm just going to give you what neurologists think about this. They really don't support the role of CCSVI. And why don't they support it? Because we're not asking the right questions. And we're all concerned about a placebo response. These people who went to get vertebral artery surgery in California, every one of them came back and said, I'm so glad I went. Let me tell you how much better I am. That was 1977. So we need data. We need information. We need information that we require the drug companies to give us. You know, what is the actual reflexes and strength and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. They're required to do it. Why aren't these people required to do it? Why are we just going to let these people go out and do it? So the neurologists have to protect the patient. I don't know if you realize that. Hopefully there are no neurosurgeons in town. I think in the eyes. One of the things I was taught in my neurology residency program, one of my jobs as a neurologist, Dr. Hubbard probably had the same experience, is to keep our patients away from neurosurgeons that had back problems. So, because all these neurosurgeons want to operate on everybody's back, and our job is to keep our patients away from them. Right?
And their carotid artery.
Pardon?
And their carotid artery.
And their carotid artery. Good point. Anyway, so the neurologists think the interventionalists are misguided about MS. They really don't know what MS is. So how can they expect to know if it's going to